cut this Cherokee in half. All right, you guys have been asking for it for years to build an off-road, overlanding camp trailer. But you guys know that here in BleepinJeep land, we do things a little different. So what I want to do is turn this Jeep Cherokee into an off-road trailer, but with a twist.
A big twist.
A big twist. Actually, a 360-degree twist. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Me?
No. You!
Oh.
So back in the 70s, there was a Volkswagen, and they built a trailer. It's basically a gooseneck trailer, but instead of attaching to the rear bed, it attaches to the roof of the Volkswagen, and the Volkswagen can spin 360 degrees underneath the trailer and end up pushing the trailer forward from under the trailer. Alright guys, sitting here editing this, I realized maybe you need a little more backstory. So here is what I was able to pull up. Back in 1974, this was made by the International Travel Trailer Inc. And they decided, hey, let's hitch a gooseneck camper to a Volkswagen Beetle. And they called it the El Chico. It's pretty wild for its time, a little bit ahead of its time, and it didn't really catch on back in 74. For whatever reason, it's become even more popular now, gaining 16 million views on this video that I found on YouTube. It had this custom mounted roof hitch thing on top of the Beetle, giving it a 360 degree turning capability. And inside it had a full bathroom, a kitchen, sleeping space for 4. And it was insanely cool. I'm not sure how practical it was, though it never made it past the prototype stage. And decades later, one was found in a salvage yard and fully restored, complete with a matching 71 Super Beetle. And it's a rolling piece of RV history. So even though it was a bit ahead of its time, I think its time is now. And I'm going to recreate this thing in an off-road BleepinJeep style. I saw that video when I was probably 15, and I thought, man, that is so cool. All these years, it's been in the back of my mind, thinking, I would really like to do something like that one day. And today is the day.
That's what's been taking up the space?
That's why my brain is mush, because every day I'm thinking about this project. So we're going to build an overland camp trailer, gooseneck style, Volkswagen-esque, and it's going to go on the Comanche. So we're going to have to build something on top of this Comanche that's going to hold that gooseneck. I don't know how we're going to do that. I don't know how we're going to do any of this. But the first thing that we need to do is cut this Jeep in half. I've seen people do this with Jeep Cherokee trailers before. Sometimes they'll cut it right here. That's a huge trailer though. That would be heavy. I'm thinking we cut it right here. So we have one functioning door, or 2 functioning doors on the side, and then of course the back hatch.
We got this pillar here to work with. The pillar's curved, but you can still do a straight line down the pillar and that'll still be kind of structurally rigid.
I'm thinking we just go ahead and cut the frame right down the middle too. I don't think we need any of that front frame. Sometimes I've seen people use part of that front frame, but with what we're going to be doing with the, we're going to have a lot of height on this thing to clear that Comanche, which is pretty tall. So I don't think that frame's going to help us out at all.
And not only does it have to just clear the Comanche, since we're not going to be on a flat road and the Comanche's going to be doing this, it's got to not hit anything. So it's going to be even a little bit higher.
What we're saying is this could be a total disaster. This could not work at all. But we're going to find out. Is an off-road gooseneck trailer a good idea or a bad idea?
I mean, it's an idea. We'll find out.
Let's just make a rough and rowdy cut right there, knowing that we're gonna trim it back.
Yeah.
We got this from our neighbor Ben. It doesn't have a motor or drivetrain, and it's pretty nasty. In fact, some animals were living inside it when we picked it up.
Dead animals were living inside it.
Dead animals were living inside there. And if you tell us that we're ruining a Cherokee, no, that we're saving this one. Oh, yuck.
Yeah.
I think we might need to go buy a different Cherokee.
It's not a good start. So you guys always yell at us for using nice vehicles and destroying these nice vehicles. Well, here you go. You're about to see why we don't do that. Because now we got to deal with that. But it's what you wanted. I don't know if we're actually going to have to cut much.
It'll just break in half.
Yeah.
Should we keep any of the wiring? I guess I'll cut it a little long so that we can save the taillight wiring out of it, maybe. There we go.
Perfect. Hang on one second. Here.
Hello. Why are we hanging on? He probably thinks that it's gonna break in half while I'm in here. And that's highly possible. Oh, my foot just went through the... Ah! My foot went through the floor. Dang it.
Oh, she's separating.
Oh, it's cut.
So it's holding.
Jump on it.
Or if it'll pop the glass. I bet if we would have had the doors closed, it would hold it together. They're not going to close anymore. You'd have to jack it up.
I'm surprised the saws all cut right through that frame and all.
Frame's just sheet metal, so very rusty sheet
Now
metal.
it's going to be real dangerous to cut the top in half.
Yeah.
If I were to get on top and cut, it would be fairly safe until it fell. Oof. Maybe jack stands would be.
Probably jack stands, yeah.
Maybe we'll put jack stands on the rear and let the front fall
As long as you're standing on
the rear.
this side. Safety first. Need your glasses. There you go.
Maybe if There we go. Let's release it. For safety.
For safety.
I don't know, you can hold your whole Jeep together just by 6 inches of roof right here. Oh, so close.
There's like so little. All bad ideas start with a great idea.
At least I had my safety glasses.
Right?
That is what's holding it up. About took my leg off.
Yeah. Sticky. What do you think?
Alright, I'm recuperating from my fall. We're looking this thing over, trying to figure out how we're going to attach any metal to that when it's completely all rusted out.
So we could make it a flat deck. It's not going to help out a lot, but we wouldn't have to worry about that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, just turning that into a flat piece, but I still think we ought to come and attach to these, what's left of the frame rails anyway.
Are they even halfway? They're halfway solid. And that's what our springs are attached to, which is going to be an issue.
I think we're going to have to weld new spring hangers because that thing's toast.
Yeah.
Anybody need a front half of a Jeep to make a 6-door Jeep or something?
Drive it out. What do we do with that?
Yard ornament.
I was gonna say Hope would love it right up there.
We should put it in her garden, see how long it takes her to get it.
How long it takes you to die.
See if you can bench press that. Oh, he's so strong. Oh, dude, perfect right there. We ought to be on the show. All right, you've seen us do this before.
Got another hose.
It's probably got squirrels in it.
Sassy pants.
Everything's gone. So, question. Will a Dana 35 axle hold up to 42-inch tires if it's not being driven?
I think so.
It's a C-clip.
It should be fine. If it's not driven, it should be fine.
Should be fine. In that case, what we need to do next is put a lift on this sucker. Oh my gosh, look at the leaf spring. This is my leaf spring pile. This one's got a lift kit. That looks like it might work. I don't know what that's off of. What we need is the tallest, lightest spring. A wasp nest. So we're having trouble getting any of the bolts loose. They're completely rusted for the leaf springs. And I thought, can you hold this for a sec? Mm-hmm. What if instead we just cut these off with a torch? Just complete on both sides. Leave them there and make our own spring hanger brackets down here. Because we're going to have to customize it anyway because the springs are shorter. We could put one here and then one on the frame rail back there.
Then our perches are going to be in the wrong spot though.
Yeah, we would have to redo the perches is all.
But then we could tilt it.
If we redo the perches, we can tilt this up so that it's not catching on stuff, and we won't have to worry about getting these bolts out because those are boogers. The bolts on these Cherokees are inside a pocket. They're not even in the frame. They're inside this pocket that's welded onto the side of the frame here. But that would also give it even more lift because we're going to eventually need this thing to be pretty tall because we're putting 42-inch tires on it. I'm thinking we might be able to kill 3 birds with 1 stone.
I like killing birds.
No, you don't.
Chickens? Chickens are great.
Hey, check that out. Hello? Yeehaw. We did something.
What was holding this Cherokee on together? Hopes and dreams.
We did all that cutting and then it just broke. Alright, between some Barnes tabs and some BleepinJeep tabs and some shackles that I found over by the leaf spring pile and some found BDS suspension leaf springs, here's what we came up with. What we're going to do is we're going to weld this to the back of the frame like so, and then we'll have 3 different options for mounting points. And then up on the front, I've got, this isn't meant for this, but it's a Barnes bracket that will work. It was the perfect size. I got some bushings in there, and then we're going to weld that on the frame as well. And then over here, we put some 2 by, what is that? No, that's 1.5 by 1.5 maybe? Or is that 2 by 2? Yeah, that's 2 by 2 box, 1/4 inch. And then there's some shock tabs, holes drilled in that. And we decided we're gonna stick this chunk straight up so that we'll have a lot more clearance on the bottom of the axle for hitting rocks and such.
We won't be ramming that pinion straight into rocks.
It's gonna be great. I wonder if there's any gear oil in this thing. We better check that before we stick it in there. I took out about 18 pounds
Of rust?
of bolts and brackets that were shoved in the back there, the back frame rail.
Yeah.
Instead of taking the bolts out, they just pushed them back when they added new bolts for a new, I guess, a receiver hitch that they were installing at some point.
Okay.
They never took the bolts out, they just shoved them back further in the frame rail.
Whatever works.
So what we're going to do is bolt these on, put some weight on it, spread these out a little bit so we'll know a little bit better where to weld everything. Because when we're finished, we want that shackle to be something like that. We'll have a little bit of adjustment with these holes. Still haven't figured out what we're going to do with this.
Back, yeah.
Somehow we need to stiffen this up a little bit. Alright, we've been eyeballing this, trying to get it pretty square. We're going to weld this. We're going to tack it actually on the outside. But as far as we can tell, it's pretty straight, axle straight, sort of-ish.
Close enough for a gooseneck off-road trailer.
Alright! Alright, got that one tacked in. Now, so we know that this is for a YJ
rear.
CJ. No, it was
CJ.
actually a CJ.
CJ rear.
So maybe we should figure out how
CJ.
long a CJ rear is, which we don't know. We know a YJ rear is 44 inches from bolt hole to bolt hole. So stick that up there.
44 inches. This is 42.5. So 44 inches would be like back there, which that's not.
That's the wrong angle, but we don't have any weight on it. Once we put weight in it, these leaf springs are gonna straighten out, which will get longer.
But how much?
We don't know how much.
We could set it down and see how far back it rocks, and then add just a little bit because this is more flexy than this grinding up against this. The issue we're having right now is this thing's really freaking tall. Like, it's super tall.
But it's also really light.
Yes.
We're gonna add a few 100 pounds, which, let's get some buckets. Let's do that. Let's set this thing back down on its perches, or just on its back end here. We'll put a few 100 pounds in it and see where that bolt ends up being, and then we'll have a better understanding of how this is gonna work out. Okay, just with the empty weight, nothing in it, it moved back a good 3/4 of an inch. Now we need to go and put as much weight as possible in there. What's the heaviest thing we got?
We got batteries, we got buckets of water.
Buckets of water, I think, is going to be where it's at. We'll also put some batteries in there. Those are pretty heavy. Whoa. All right, we got 2 buckets, 2 cans of fuel, whole bunch of batteries. Let's lower it down and see where that, oh, okay, it's not touching. So it didn't really go back anymore. I have a feeling that those leaf springs are gonna, yeah, they're gonna flatten out too though once we bounce it around a few times. Once we put a 42-inch tire on there, that thing is going to be even taller than that, which is already here. It's already pretty good.
7 feet tall.
Yeah, so we're building a gooseneck, so we got to think we're going to have a hitch up there, and we want the top of that to sit down on top of that. So it's going to be pretty tall.
It's got to be tall enough to clear the KCs.
Yeah, we need it to clear this bar. If we're going downhill and that trailer's still coming uphill, we want it to be able to... Did we make a mistake?
We're just going to need a big post.
A big tall gooseneck post?
Yeah.
Alright, we came up with a game plan. With the weight that we have on it currently, it sits back here. With this completely flat, it sits right there. What we're going to do is split the difference right here, and we're going to put that first hole at the split difference right in there somewhere. Then, if this leaf spring ever flattens out over time, all we'll have to do is just move it back a hole, or back a hole again, and that will bring the shackle further down. What you want is a shackle to be at about 45 degrees for ride comfort, even though nobody's going to be riding in there, but maybe we'll stick you in there.
Put a seat in there. We got that. Oh,
we have a bench seat.
It's gone.
Where'd it go? Okay, so that's the game plan. Let's do that. It's mobile. All right, how tall is it?
83 inches, 7 feet.
It's going to be really tricky to get in. This will just be the access door. Otherwise, it's going to be tricky to get in there.
Yeah.
This will be the, if you want to get inside, this is the door for you. Back here. That'll be to access your seat. Alright guys, so we are waiting on a wheel adapter. I have some bead locks, 8x6.5, with some 42s already mounted on it, and instead of taking those off and trying to put them on these wheels, which would have been not an issue, but then we wouldn't have bead locks and we would spend a couple more hours having a bead lock party. So instead of doing that, I'm just gonna get some wheel adapters, which I was surprised that they make wheel adapters for 5x4.5 to 8x6.5, which is cool, but I was surprised that they actually made those. And then we'll be able to just bolt those, and it'll give us a little extra width because this is a narrow width axle, and it's going to give us an extra inch. Probably should have went with 1.5 inches, but it was like $100 more.
We can put spacers on. if we have to.
Spacers on top of spacers on top of spacers. It'll be fine. This thing's not gonna flex a whole lot because it's a trailer, so I think it'll be fine just clearing. So right now, I mean, that tire's gonna be sitting something about like that. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Plus, if it tries to flex and it hits the fender, it'll just stop flexing.
Yeah.
Luckily, those wheels are spaced out quite far, so we will have spacers and spaced out wheels. We're gonna steal those from the Toyota that we used to build the Jaguar. So we're just using all free parts basically, except for the wheel spacers. I was a little concerned that pinion would hit the bottom, but I don't think that's gonna happen.
I don't know.
That would have to really flex. Nah, that'll work.
Reusing parts.
Alright, he's working on those old shock mounts. And I'm working on some tie-down tabs. So if we want to mount this to a trailer, we've got our BleepinJeep tie-down tabs, which make it super helpful. And I was thinking, where can I put those that won't be in the way? And then I remembered, there's a flat spot right there. These are made so that you can mount it flat or you can mount it on the tube. They come rounded, but I just cut it straight. And then I'm gonna weld that right there. We'll have a good mounting spot for our straps. Alright, these shocks weren't long enough, so we gotta take them out. Broken. Completely broken. Any Jeep Cherokee that's seen any rust, those are gonna break off as soon as you try to get them out of there. But no fear, we have a solution for you. First thing you're gonna do is take a punch, a big punch, and a big hammer, and you're gonna knock them out.
I'm really scared of hitting that finger.
Here is your solution. Check these out. So we sell these on the BleepinJeep website. They are basically flag nuts for the rear shocks of a Jeep Cherokee. And what you're gonna do, you're gonna slide that right up in there, like so. There they are, right there, you can see. Now all you gotta do is get your bolts started, and it'll take care of itself from there.
Sweet.
Close enough. That's that. Flag nut is in there. Worked pretty good.
Worked great.
That one's still cool.
That one's pretty hot.
Okay. What we want to do now is talk about how we're going to fill that ginormous hole on the front of this trailer. We just so happen to have this, if it helps us at all. It's actually not terrible. I want to stand back and see this. Oh, it looks ridiculous. It doesn't look right because it needs, it's like the bottom needs to come out.
Oh,
Yeah, if we could get that angle, or a little more actually, it would be better, but then you're talking about having to rework everything.
Yeah.
Instead of doing that, I like your idea of cutting this straight, putting a big piece of sheet metal on there, but it would be cool if we could get this window and at least match this window in there. Will it? Barely. I think it would fit if we moved it up just a tad. We're in the same boat of when we built the Jaguar. When we put that window in, that was a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
It was a lot more difficult than we expected because the window, where the window seals are, it needs to be like a 1/2 inch thick, and just a piece of sheet metal is not a 1/2 inch thick. So we had to build this big old brace thing to kind of hold everything and hold the rubber in place. Guess what came in the mail today?
Wheel spacers?
We got wheel spacers!
Awesome.
Guess what else came?
That looks to me like a 3D printer.
So George sent you a little present.
He did. George, you are effing awesome. I love you. You guys know George.
You must have been talking about 3D printers in front of George.
Oh, we had a whole 3D printer show and tell thing. Yes.
Cool. I like it.
So George sent something for you too.
Me?
For you.
Is it another 3D printer?
It is Bamboo Labs.
George must own this Bamboo Labs.
Check it out. Open it up.
Ship to Bleepin' Matt. George doesn't even do his own boxing? Look at that. Dr. Pepper cool. Oh, look at that. It's a fridge. Oh my goodness. It even has a cold Dr. Pepper in there.
Isn't that amazing?
Thanks, George. We're gonna put this in our crazy, one-of-a-kind off-road. What are we calling this thing? Off-road gooseneck
Trailer.
World's first off-road gooseneck trailer. How about that?
World's largest off-road gooseneck trailer.
We can call it all the things because it's the first.
So these things, these koozies, I believe are available on the BleepinJeep website, right?
Yeah.
Look at that.
I'll be taking my Dr. Peppers. All right, well, since we got our wheel spacers, I think we should put them on. And we've got some tires here. Check those out. We'll get those on and see what this thing is going to look like eventually. We're struggling here, so let me show you what we've got going on. Typically, when you're lifting a vehicle on a vehicle lift, the tires are on the outside of the arms. Since this is a trailer, the tires are on the inside of the arms, and we can't squeeze these arms enough to get onto the body of this little tiny trailer. So,
Either need smaller tires, which, why? Who wants smaller tires?
we don't need smaller tires. We came up with this, so we've got a tube from there to there. I still don't know if the tire's gonna clear that tube. Maybe it will.
Maybe.
But we're gonna try lifting it right there and see how this goes. Okay. Press the button. We got one tire on using the jack.
We have went ahead and put the tire in there. We're gonna have to lift it up high enough now.
Yeah, but it'll be fine. I think it'll be fine. Here's our issue. To get a tire in there, we need these arms to be out here, and there's no trailer left. If we had the tongue on it, it wouldn't be a big deal. We could just attach it to something and lift the backside. I think that's gonna work. A little more. Ta-da! Check it out. Here, stand over there for size. Oh yeah! That thing is a monster. It's gonna be great. We only tacked on the leaf springs, and I think we're gonna have to move this direction because right now we've only got upward travel of about 2 inches. We can do the comp cut, the Cherokee comp cut right here, and that'll gain us about 7 inches back here, and then that way the tire can stuff up into this area. Let's do that, and then I want to roll it out and put it up next to the truck and see what it looks like. You guys want to see that? We've got it tacked. Let's try this again. Okay, that's all of its own weight on it. You can see we've got much more clearance here now, and a lot less clearance here now, but that won't matter because this is going to get cut all the way up to here. that thing. We didn't move the back shackle location, but I don't think we're gonna flex up that much.
I don't think we will either.
And
that'll give it a little bit softer ride too.
And we have more holes. If we need to, we can adjust that backwards. You want that at about 45? It's a little less than that, but...
Put a little rubber pad right there. That's a bump stop.
All right. You're busting the glass. This is why we can't have nice things. It's that time. I want to get this thing outside and see what it looks like hooked up to the Comanche, mainly just for fun. I want to see what it looks like, but also we need to make sure it's the right height and that it's going to be, I don't know, work. Oh, I lost momentum. Not long enough. Okay.
It's gonna be long.
It's gonna have to have a really long gooseneck because it's all gonna have to come all the way back to like in the middle of here somewhere. Yeah, we need to measure the center of the Comanche and mark that down. It'd probably be nicer to be further back and then just barely clear the front and really clear the back, because when we're doing most of our shenanigans, it's going to be on the back. Obviously you only want to spin it around to maneuver it into place, which probably won't happen ever or very often, but at least you know it's possible. All right, let us know what you guys think. Are we crazy? I'm going to take some pictures and we'll see you guys in the next episode, and we'll continue on the crazy trailer build. We're going to cut this Cherokee in half. Okay, mark your spot on the floor. X marks the spot.